Hey guys, it's Trey here once again, back with another video. And in this video, I want to talk to you guys about something that I've been thinking about for a while. I didn't know that there were any solutions out for it, but basically it's just passwordless authentication. So instead of you logging in with your email and password, you would just log in with your email, and there won't be any passwords that need to be used to log into an application. I found this neat little application called Magic, and it pretty much does that for you. And you can use it for any of your applications. They have a lot of different solutions for you. You can use emails, social media, blockchain, biometrics, text messages. So this is the many ways that you can log in without using a password using this application. Today I want to show you an example of how to do this with the email, and then I'll show you how we can implement this ourselves if we wanted to, only with the email. I'm not going to do the rest of that stuff. That's a lot more involved. So let's just go ahead and get started with this example. So you can go here and sign up for free and get a free plan. All you need to do is type in your email here. So once you sign up with them, it'll take you to this dashboard page. And on this dashboard page, the only thing you're going to really need is this this test publishable key. So we're going to just do an example. So if we click on that Go to Docs button, and then we'll do this client side SDK and click on JS Web. And then this will take you here, and we're just going to run through these steps so you can see how it works. Here it says that we need to type in npx make magic. So let's go back to our VS Code. And in your folder, we're just going to say npx. Actually, we're going to create a new folder. So we're going to say, okay, dear, I'll just call this magic_test. And then we'll cd into magic test. And then we're going to type in that command. It was npx make-magic. All right. And then here's going to ask you some questions. Let me pull this up so you can see it a little better. All right, down here it says, what is your project name? We're just going to call it magic_test. All right. And then choose a template. We're just going to choose hello world. All right. And now this is where we need that key. So if we go back to our dashboard, we can click on this key, and then we'll just copy that key. And then we can go back to our VS Code, and in here we just paste that key. So that's what we need there. Hit enter. I'm using npm, so that's what I'm choosing for my client. And then it will generate the file, generate the project, and then it will load up our application automatically. So this is our application. I had ran this earlier, so this is what you'll see when you once your application starts running. So the way it works is you just type in your email. So I'll type in, just type in this one. And then you hit send. All right, now it's telling you to check your email address. So I'm going to go here and I will refresh, and boom, there it is. Click on here, and then there's a login. So you just click login. And then it loads the page where it shows that you're logged in. So I'm logged in as that email address that I put in. So now that we know how it works, let's take a look at the actual code behind it. So if we go back to our Visual Studio Code, and I'm going to scroll down here just to move that down. So if we look in this folder, we see that it has created a node project for us. And let's go ahead and take a look in this index.html. This is where all the magic is happening, no pun intended. So when we come in here, we see that it sets the title and everything. It's pulling in the magic.js. So this is the actual pretty much the application. Pretty much it pulls in this JS file, and this does everything that you need. So here we see says we set up the magic object. So we create a new magic object with that key that we had. So our public key. And then this is a function here. It's called render. And this function pretty much does all of the work. So let's see. Let's just run through it. So it says if the window path name equals callback. So callback is what is called when you type in your email address and click the login button. So it comes in here. It says login with credential. And then as it's logging in, it gets the metadata back. And then it basically just prints out what we saw. All right. So, and then otherwise it's going to check if it's logged in or not. And then it'll print out this if it's not. And then this is pretty much the login form. And then you fill it out. And then handle log out. Boom. And then it calls the callback method. So it's pretty simplistic here. Login with magic link. So that's what's going to send the email to you. And that's pretty much it. It's pretty simple. So we're going to go ahead and create our own version of this. So the way we're going to do this is, first off, let me stop this server. And I'm going to create a new folder for our project. So let me close this out. In this folder, I'll just create a new folder. So I'm going to call this folder pwd less login. So that's passwordless login. All right. And then we'll cd into there. And then we're going to turn this into a node project. So we do that by typing in npm init-y, hit enter. And now if we look in here, we have our package.json, which holds all of our information for our project. So once we get to this point here, we can go ahead and start creating our Express server. So we're going to be using Express to create our server for this. So in order to do that, we need to install it. So we're going to install a couple of other things along with it. So in order to do this, we type in npm i-S, and then we're going to type in Express because that's what we want to install. We're also going to install a package called Node Mailer. This is going to allow us to send our emails. And the last thing that we're going to install is going to be called UUID. This is going to allow us to create unique identifiers, which we will use in our process. All right, so once we got that, we go ahead and we're going to install something called NodeMon, and NodeMon is going to allow us to update our project without having to restart the server. So every time we update a file in our project, our server will automatically update during development. So the way we're going to do this is by installing a package called NodeMon. So we're going to say npm i-d, so we know that this is a development dependency. And then we're going to type in NodeMon. So this will install NodeMon. All right, so now that that is installed, we need to go ahead and set up a script to run NodeMon with our project. So what we're going to do is go up here in your package.json to this scripts object here, and then we're going to go under that and we're going to type in dev. And then for the other side, we're going to put NodeMon and then server.js. All right, so this is going to start NodeMon with our server.js file, which we haven't created yet, and we are about to do right now. So if we go here to our passwordless login folder and we create a new file, we're going to call it server.js. All right, so here in server.js is where we're going to set up our Express server. So our Express server is going to just basically be a regular Express server, and then we're going to have different routes that we can hit on that server. So let's just go ahead and create it. So we're going to say const express, and then we're going to say require, and then we're going to say express. All right, then after this, we're going to set a port. So we're going to say const port, and I'll just set it to 3000. So this is going to be the port we're going to run this server on. And then now we need to create the app. So we're going to say const app equals express. And if you don't know what's going on here, you can just Google well, just find a YouTube video or something for Express. There are tons of videos out there and articles about the Express server, how to get it running and everything. So I'm not going to go over that right now. So just follow along. So we're going to do app.use express.json. All right. So after that, we're going to go ahead and start our servers. We do that by saying app.listen, and then we type in the port. So that's going to be the port that's running on. And then we're going to have this callback method here that's going to basically print out on the screen that we've started our server. So we're going to say console.log, and then I'm going to use backticks here because I'm going to be putting the port in this string. So we're going to say started server, and I'm just going to put the pwd list login, put that in parentheses, and then I'll just say on port, and then let's throw the port in here. All right. So that's pretty much it for our server. Now what we're going to do is we're going to create our routes file. So the routes file is pretty much just going to have the endpoints pretty much. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go to this passwordless login in the root folder. We're going to create another folder, and we're going to call it routes. And inside of this routes folder, we're going to create a file called index.js. And then inside of this file is where we're going to have our routes. So we're going to need to pull in Express again, and then we're going to use the Express router. So just follow along, and I'll show you how to do that. So we're going to type in const express, then we're going to say require express. Then under here, we're going to set up our router. So it's going to be const router equals express dot router. And then from here, we're going to set up two methods. So the first one we're going to do, we're going to say router dot get, and then we'll have the callback method. And our callback method is going to have a parameter that's called creds. And then we'll just do the request and the response. And then we're not going to actually implement this right now, but we will in a minute. So let's go ahead and set up our second one, which is going to be for the login, which is going to be a router.post. And then we'll just say login. And then here, we'll also do the request and the response. And then the last thing we need to do is export our router. So we're going to say module.exports equals router. All right, we save this file, and now we have our routes file ready to go. So if we go back to our server.js, we need to import that routes file and tell this app to use that routes file. All right, so the way we're going to do this is I'm going to go under this first line here, and I'm going to say const routes, and then we're going to require that routes folder. So it's going to be /routes. All right, so this is going to get this folder here, this routes folder. It's going to automatically know that we're talking about this index.js file. That's why we named this file index.js. If you name this file anything other than index.js, you have to specify it here. So you have to say routes and then whatever the name of your file is. But since we named it index.js, we just can put /routes, and it'll know to get this index.js file. So what we're going to do is use that in our app. So we're going to say app.use, and then we put routes. And now any route that we have specified in this index.js file, so this /callback/creds and this /login, will be used in our application. So from here, we're pretty much done with the server.js file. I don't think there's anything else we need to do here. But now we can go back to our index.js file and actually implement these routes. So let's just start off with our login route. In the login route, we need to be able to get the login information, which is really just an email. And then we need to take that email, the email address, and send an email to that email address with a link that will allow that person to log in. All right. So let's go ahead and start that off by getting the email from the request. So we're going to say const email equals request dot body dot email. So this email will come in the request body. So we're going to get the email from the request body and store it in this variable called email. All right. So from here, we need to be able to take this email and send an email to this email address with our link in it. So the way we're going to do this is we're going to use that node mailer package that we installed when we first set up our project. So we're going to go up to the top. We're going to say const node mailer, and then we're going to require node mailer. So now that we have this in here, we need to set up, basically configure our node mailer. So we're going to do that. Let's do it under the router. And we're just going to say const transporter. And then we're going to say node mailer dot create transport. So basically what this is basically setting up the transporter. So basically, depending on your email client, this will be, the information in here would be different. So I'm going to be using Gmail. So I'll be setting up to use Gmail. So inside of here, inside this create transport is going to take an object. This object is going to need really basically just two different fields. So the first one is going to be service. And the service is going to be Gmail because that's the email client that I'm going to be using. So we'll set the service to Gmail, and then you need to put your authentication for your Gmail. So we need to set auth, and then in here is going to take an object, and this object is going to have a user. So this user is pretty much your email address. So I'm going to be using this email address. So pwd login at gmail.com, and then your password for that email address. So for me, we're just going to type pass, and then for me, it's going to be p at ssl3ss, so passless. All right, so this is going to be our transporter. So that's all you need to do to set up your transporter. And then under here, we need to set up our mail options. So mail options are basically just basically who it's from, who it's to, the actual information is going to be in the message and stuff like that. So let's go ahead and set that up. So we're going to say mail options is just an object, and this object is going to have a from, and then I'm just going to put the email address that I'm sending this from, and then we're going to have the subject, and then I'll just say test email with a smiley face. All right, and for this right here, this is all we're going to set right here. The to and the actual information will be variable, so we don't want to set it here. We'll set it whenever we get that information that we want to set in there, which we will be doing pretty much right now. So if we go back down into our login route, and under this email, we're going to go ahead and set those options. So we're going to say mail option dot to is going to equal that email. So I'm going to set that to the email that we just grabbed from the body, and then we also need to set the text for the mail. So we're going to say mail options dot text, and this is what's going to actually be the body of the email. So here we're going to put I'm going to use backticks here because I want to put the email in here, because basically this is just going to be a link. This is going to be the link that we click on in that email. I'm not going to put anything else in there, nothing extra, just the link. So we're going to say http / and then we're going to say localhost, and then 3000, because this is where we're going to be running this server, and this is where we want to hit. And then we're going to call the callback method, which is above here. So this right here. So we're going to send it to here. So we're going to say callback, and then we need to put this parameter for the creds. And that's why I use backticks here, because we're going to put the parameters in using this syntax. And really it's just going to be the email. So call back with that email, right? All right, so that is the text set. Now all we have to do is send the email, and we do that using this transporter object that we created up here. All right, so we're going to say transporter dot send mail, and then inside of here we're going to pass in the mail options, and then we'll also have a callback. So we're going to say we're going to have the error and also the info. So the error is basically if an error happens, and info is pretty much the return from the call. So we're going to say if error, then we're going to say console.log error, and then res.send error. All right, and then else. So if the there is no error in sending the email, we're just going to say console.log, and then we will send, I guess we'll just say email sent, and then from here we'll just say info.response. So that's going to pretty much just print out what the response was. If they were successful, it's just going to print it out. Otherwise, we print out the error if it's not successful. All right, and then last but not least, we're going to say we're just going to send. Let's just send back the email, and we'll do a new line. Okay, so now our login is working. So we're going to actually test this out, and we're not going to click on the link though. So the way we're going to test this is we're going to run our server. So the way we're going to do this is we're going to type in npm run dev. All right, so now as we can see, nodemon started, and it started our server on port 3000. I'm going to clear this, and then I'm going to click this. I'm going to right click on our terminal and hit the split, and that's going to add us a second terminal over here. And from this terminal is where we're going to actually make the call to our login. I'm going to make the call to our login route. And we're going to do that by using curl. So we're going to type in curl dash capital X, and we're going to type in post, because this is a post request. And then we're going to type in dash D, and this is where we're going to put our email at. So this is the body of the request. So we're going to type in single quotes and then curly braces, and then we're going to type in email, and then we're going to set the email to pwdletslogin@gmail.com. All right, so you put whatever email you want to send this request to, and then from here we're going to need to type in the header, and that is going to be content dash type, and then it's going to be application slash JSON. Maybe I should make this a little larger so you can see it a little better. I think that's good. I think now we can just type in the address. So we're going to say localhost 3000 slash login. Let's see. All right. So we got that working. As you can see, we got our email back, which is exactly what we were expecting. So let me run through this code so we can see exactly what happened. All right, so we did the login. We got the email. We set the email, and we put this link in the text, and then we sent it, and then we got our console.log. So email sent with the info response. So here that is. This is the server side. And then we said response.send email with a new line, and here is the email. So we know that went. So now let's go ahead and see if we can find that email. So I'm going to go back to my browser and to my email, and let's see if we got that email. Here it goes. So we did end up getting that email, and the email has the link in it. If we click this link, it shouldn't work. Nothing should happen. It should just hang up because we haven't implemented that method yet. So the good thing is that we know it's calling that method because it's hanging up. Because we never did a response.send in that callback route. So that's good. So let's go back to our VS Code. And in here, we need to go ahead and now implement this callback method. So now when we receive our callback, we need to basically say that we're logged in pretty much. So what we're going to do is we're going to get the email from that cred. So the way we're going to do this is we're going to say const creds equals request dot params dot cred. All right. So boom, now we have the credential, and now let's just do a res.send cred. All right, so this should fix that hanging up problem that we were having. So I'm just going to go back to the browser here, and now when we click on this link, we should, there we go. So now we're printing out the email that we sent the password to, which is what we did in our code. So let's go back to VS Code, and this pretty much seems kind of insecure at the moment because sure, we're sending the link and we click on the link and it logs us in or whatever, right? In our case, this is basically what's happening. But it's not really secure because anybody can just send the callback method with any email address they want and they'll be logged in with that email address. So what we're going to do is we're going to utilize this the unique identifier that we imported with our project when we set it up. So what we're going to do is we're going to, in this login, when we send this link, we're going to append a unique identifier to the end of this. That way, when you click on it, it's going to check the email address and it's going to check this unique code and make sure that they are the same email address and unique code that we started with when we called the login. If that doesn't make sense, we're going to code it out and I'll explain it as we go. So the first thing that we're going to need to do is we're going to need to import that unique identifier package. So we're going to do that by saying const, and then I'll just call it, actually we're just going to do it like this. We're going to say const, and then in here we're going to say v4, and then we're going to say uuid v4. All right, and then we're going to set that equal to require, and then we're going to say uuid. All right, so this is going to import that here, and now down here where we're setting the before we set the text, we're going to need to get that unique identifier. So we're going to say const, I'll just say ID, and then we're going to call uuid v4, and this will get us a randomly generated ID. So from here in the text, we're going to use this ID. So we're going to do an underscore, and then we'll just say ID. All right, so this should append the ID behind the email with an underscore in between. So what we're going to need to do is we're going to go up here to our callback.creds, and we're going to need to separate these two, because when it comes into this method, it's going to come in as just as creds. So this whole string right here is going to be creds, and then we're just going to separate it into two different parts. And we're going to do that by after we get our creds, we're just going to say dot split, and then we're going to have an underscore here. So this underscore is basically the delimiter pretty much. And now we can go ahead and separate our parts. So we're going to say const email is going to be creds 0, and then we'll also have our ID, which is going to be creds 1. All right, so now we have our email and our ID, and now we need to have a way that we can compare this email and this ID that was pretty much this ID that was generated. All right, so now we need a way that we can check to make sure this ID is the same ID that comes back in this callback method. So when we send the email, we're sending it with this ID. And when we get the callback method, we need to make sure that that ID that is sent with the callback method matches this ID. And the way I would say to do this is by storing this information in a database. You can probably have like the email is the key and then have another column with an ID. And then you can just compare them from in the database. But since we are not setting up a database, we can go ahead and just use a JavaScript object for that. So what we're going to do is we're going to say const fake DB, and we're just going to set it to an empty object for right now. And then we're going to use this as our database pretty much. So what we're going to do is down here under the text, after we set the text, but before we send this, send the mail, we're going to add it to our fake database. So we're going to say fake DB, and then we're going to set the email as the key, and then we're going to set the ID as the value. So now this fake DB object has a key with the value of this email, and then it's set to this ID. So that's how we can check the ID on the callback side. So when we send this, we're going to get the creds back. And remember, we already separated out our creds. So now we just need to go ahead and compare the two IDs. So we're going to do this by just doing a quick if statement. We're going to say if fake DB, and then we're going to get the email. So we're going to grab whatever the value of this email is in fake DB, and then we're going to check to see if that equals ID. All right, so that's doing that check. And then we can say if it does equal, then we can just do a res.send, and then we'll just say login successful. And then otherwise, we can just say, I'm going to erase that. Otherwise, we can just say res.send login unsuccessful. All right. So now, if we get the correct ID pass back, then we should get a successful login. Otherwise, we should get an unsuccessful login. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to resend that login message so we can get a new email, and then from that email we can go ahead and click on the link. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back here, go to my inbox. I'm going to delete these messages. I'll just do it that way. All right, so delete these messages, and then I'm going to go back to VS Code down here in this terminal, and then we're going to send another one of those login requests. So as you can see, we're sending it to login with our email, and this should send us an email with our new cred system in it. So let's go back to, as we can see, it sent well. Let's go back to our browser. We can see that we got the email. And as you can see now, we have this callback method, and then it has our email address with the underscore, and then this unique identifier. So now when we click on it, it should say login successful. All right. So you can see that it says login successful because these IDs matched. So now if I try to send something to this callback method and it doesn't match, so let's just send the first part of this. So I'm going to erase all of that, and I'm going to send, and it says login unsuccessful because these IDs don't match. So that makes it a tad bit more secure, I guess. And that's pretty much it. I just wanted to, obviously I'm not trying to give you guys a full-fledged system here. I'm just trying to show you a way that I would go about implementing this, or, beginning to implement this system. So that's a pretty simple way, at least from what I can see, how it works on the back end, just taking a guess here and showing you how you could possibly, start something like this, and giving you some ideas. and hopefully I can spark something so you guys can, have your own ideas come to life. That's pretty much it for me. I think this is a fascinating subject. Not using passwords in the 2020s. That's great. That's pretty much it. Please like, comment, subscribe, and share, all that jazz. And I'll see you guys in the next video.